6 months ago, I picked up a little game called World of Warcraft. I had no idea what to expect from it. I had no idea what the community was like, and honestly, I had no real grip or no real grasp on what the game actually was and what it had to offer. Today, I thought we'd just do a little video talking about my experience so far after playing the game for about 6 months, playing retail, playing classic, playing hardcore classic, the pros and cons, and really just go into detail about the things that I love about the game, the things that I think could be better and could be changed. And of course, please remember that all of this is just personal opinion. And I'm coming from a non-MMO background. I'm so used to playing RPGs and FPS games and even sports games. And so this is my first entry into the MMORPG world. So please take everything I say with a pinch of salt. But let's talk about it. Hopefully I'll break it down into relatively well-structured sections. It's very possible that I go off on tangents or I forget what I'm talking about or I can't remember the complexities of the game. So again, I apologize if it doesn't quite all ring true to you. But let's start out where I started. So I picked up retail World of Warcraft 6 months ago. I did the typical thing. I leveled from 0 to 20 on the free paid version. I obviously opted to go with the most retail way of doing things that I've learned this now that I shouldn't have gone the way I did. And I ended up on a beach and I worked my way through the beach and I did some quests and I rescued some people, took down some trolls, and that was my intro into the game. I flew to Stormwind and I got hit with some glorious music. And that's what I want to talk about first. The music in World of Warcraft, the audio in World of Warcraft is amazing. The atmosphere that each zone gives you is amazing. And even the zones, from what I've learned, people don't like so much, tend to have good audio and good music. I have found myself listening to some of the soundtracks from some of the zones when I'm just chilling out. And the music was amazing. And that's actually one of the first things that hit me about the game. It isn't the most glorious looking game. It's stylized, and it looks very well stylized. But it isn't God of War. It's not Red Dead Redemption 2. It's its own thing, right? So the music was one of the first things that I really noticed as being great, and the audio. And I found myself with my headphones on playing the game, feeling immersed in a world like I hadn't been for a while. I am an absolute Skyrim fiend. Skyrim is my favourite game of all time, probably. You know, there's probably a few games close to it, but Skyrim is probably my favourite game of all time. For the atmosphere, for the music, the questing, for the ability to look at something and walk to it. And so I didn't realise that World of Warcraft would actually be suited to someone like me. And let's actually talk about that a bit. My preconceived notions about the game. In my head, when I saw people playing World of Warcraft, I saw it as a top-down, Dota-like game. And I know that's incorrect, now that I've played it, but all of the clips that I'd seen from people online were high-end gameplay. It looked completely chaotic. All I saw was green numbers and red numbers and yellow numbers, and spell, and people moving here, people moving there. And I was thinking, there is no way someone who isn't primarily a PC gamer that I can get into that game. What I didn't realise, and then what I didn't know, was actually that World of Warcraft can be played as an adventure and as an RPG game. Now, some people got cross with me early on when I kept calling it an RPG. It's an MMORPG. And lots of people say there isn't any RPG elements because everything is structured and linear and you don't have much choice. Fine. But anyway, if you wanted to play slowly, enjoy a world that is basically uncompletable, World of Warcraft is a good option for you. And I didn't know that. There is so many locations. There is, I think, tens of thousands of quests. So if you just want to quest, explore, build a character that has seen everything, World of Warcraft is a good option for you. And that's been something that's blown my mind. You can sink as many hours into it as you want, and there'll still be more for you. Whether you're a quester, a collector, a high-level player, it is basically an unlimited game. And I think probably, if you look back in the day, less so now, the addiction that people had for it, and they still do, myself slightly included now, probably, is because it's vast, it's endless, it's limitless. The next thing, the next thing, the next thing. You don't ever really feel like you've got it all. And so it's got that bug that's going to keep you attached to it. And you can see what I said earlier. We're going to go off on tangents here because there's too much to talk about and my brain's, going to get confused talking about it. But anyway, let me pull myself back. I got to the point where I hit level 20 and I had to decide from there, was I going to pay for the subscription? And lots of people, whenever they ask about playing the game, are put off by the subscription. And so I want to answer one very simple question now. Is the subscription worth it? If you like the game, then absolutely. If you don't like the game, then no. When we buy games, it costs us money and it costs us time, and we trade our time for money. The weird thing about games is that in our heads we have a weird sticking point about the price. When it's a big game, a AAA game, 70, 80, however much it is, it's £70, $80, $100, Platinum Edition, whatever. You're going to be paying £60, $70 for a AAA game now. You are. They are 100% worth it if they are a good game. Because you will get your money's worth of hours to money paid. You think you go to the cinema, whatever, you might pay £10, £15 for an hour and a half. Okay? You will play these games for tens, if not hundreds of hours, lots of the games that you buy. They're worth it. And World of Warcraft is no different. If you like the game, £10 a month, $15 a month, feels steep. But for a hobby, that is cheap. It is cheap. If you're doing other things, they will cost you more money. Now, what I will say with that is I do think that they could add a slightly longer leveling progress for new players. Because from 0 to 20 is really quick on retail. You basically start on a beach, defeat some frog people, go up the hill, charge down the hill as a boar, defeat some trolls, and you're not far off. And so it doesn't take long, and you can power through it. And in my opinion, if you're someone who's struggling with that decision, do I separate with my money and my time for this game? That's not long enough. Make those people who are sitting in the middle go, yes, actually, I'm willing to give it a go. Particularly people who are like me, who've never played an MMORPG before. I think you need to give a bit more. They need to be able to see a little bit more of what the game has to offer when other people are around. Because the danger is that you lose groups of players who are going to be interested in parts of the game that you haven't yet let them have access to. So by that, I mean, maybe you've got some more high-end gamers, competitive gamers, people who like to play games for competition, for, boosting their level. Those people will not get to experience M+, or dungeons, or delves now, or anything like that, until they buy a subscription. And we could sit here and say, that's fair, fine, fair enough. However, I think the reality is that when people buy a subscription, it probably is going to churn on and on and on and on. So you should give people a little sprinkle, a little kickle of that. And so in my opinion, for new players, maybe you should be allowed to try a dungeon. Maybe you should be allowed to try a delve without signing up to that subscription. Now, I don't know how they could do that. I think they could just, put it in there somewhere on a, in a bit more depth. But that's just my thoughts on, getting more people into the game. I think the other thing that they could do from the outside, in terms of spreading awareness of World of Warcraft, is they could just show more of what the game is. Show the not so high-end stuff. Show the slow questing. Show that you can go from retail to classic, to hardcore classic, to SOD, whatever. Show those different parts of the game, and people will realise that the game has got loads more to offer. Okay, let's go a little bit into the versions of World of Warcraft and my experience of those, the pros and cons of both of them. So retail is primarily what I played for the first 5 months, four and a half months, let's call it. I have loved retail. I've loved it. So good. Leveling your first character, experiencing the world for the first time. So I started in Dragonflight. So I started my character. What character was I going to go with? Well, I rolled a warrior. Why? Because a warrior kind of looks cool. Why? What race? I want to go with Night Elf. Why? Night Elf looks kind of cool. I hadn't looked that far into the complexities of classes, characters, and roles. And to begin with, that is a really nice thing because you don't get caught up in the what ifs of your character. You go, I've got a hit button, I've got a bigger hit button, and I've got an even bigger hit button, and this one heals me. Boom, 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 boom. I've got 4 buttons. Glorious. As time goes on, that obviously changes. And retail becomes a bit more about what your output is rather than what you are doing. Not for everybody, but for lots of people. You get yourself to a certain point where it becomes more about pushing your ability than also enjoying the game. And I think they come hand in hand for lots of people, but for some people, that makes you go like, "Brr." And that's been me relatively recently. So anyway, you level through, you do some amazing leveling through some amazing zones. I started in Dragonflight, did all those quests, ranked up my leveling, 0 to 70. I got really lucky, completely unintentionally, of timing when I started playing World of Warcraft for the release of The War Within. I then transitioned over to The War Within, did all the leveling, did all the questing, did all those good bits and pieces, and it was awesome. Awesome. Meeting all the characters and experiencing the world for the first time was genuinely incredible. The stories are amazing, the lore is amazing, the characters are really good. Obviously, they've mixed in with bits of not so good, but from a new player who doesn't have any experience of the lore, any history, any understanding of what it was or what it should be, it was just a good game. I didn't sit there and think, oh, this is not this, or this person doesn't link to that, or that's a cop-out writing. It was just good. I said, oh man, that's cool, there's a giant crystal in the sky, oh, there's rats with candles on their heads, and everything was cool. Everything was cool, and the world was cool. However, as time goes on, you become more integrated into the community. A fantastic community, 99% has been for me. There's also sprinklings of what people do like and what people don't like. And so you can be doing a certain thing or going a certain way, and there's always going to be a big group of people who don't like that area of the game, aren't interested in that area of the game, and therefore that area of the game is bad and receives negativity about it. Now, if you're a newer player starting out, you can basically block that out if you're just going to cruise through the game on your own. You're going to go solo. But if you become, in groups and things, then that energy becomes slightly put onto you. There's just a bit of negative energy about everything you will do in retail. Everything. Either M+ is stupid or M+ is great. Either delves are a waste of time or delves are really fun. Either questing is worth your while, actually don't bother, just get to level 80 as quick as possible. It's important, I think, when you're starting out playing or you're going to continue playing, just try and block out the noise. Do what you enjoy. If there's people in the chat saying X, Y, and Z, there's people talking about this, that, and the other, just focus on what you like to do. And don't worry too much about your gear or looking like what you're doing is worthwhile. If you want to be a fisherman or a mount collector, just stick with that. Just do it. Just follow that path and enjoy that part of the game for what it is. And don't go too deep into it thinking you're missing out. Because that is one thing that the game does either incredibly well or incredibly badly. And I actually can't put my finger on it. I want to say it's badly, but they create the craziest FOMO ever. Your fear of missing out in World of Warcraft is immense. You will see people with things that you either can't acquire or you want to acquire or don't know how to get to, and you'll think, do I need to go and do that in order to have that? And then you'll see, actually, you have to do this level of thing to obtain that, and you'll say, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm missing out. Actually, maybe my fishing journey was not worth it. Maybe I need to go and just run unlimited delves until I get Delve Master achievement so that I get that cool thing. Try not to have FOMO. It's hard. It's hard when you're playing. And I think it generates that. Obviously, that's why people keep coming back, because it's, I want that mount, I want that mount, I want that thing, I want that level, I want that achievement. And in the World of Warcraft world, there's a real hierarchy for that sort of thing. If you are particularly good at a certain thing, or you've acquired certain things, that is perceived in a really palpable way. So I randomly got, I can't remember what it's called. Like the first time I ever did the dungeon, I think I got, is it like Rivendell mount? Whatever the Rivendell mount, or something like that. Rivendell Charger. I want to call it that. Which apparently is a really hard drop to get. And I got that completely lucky. I didn't do nothing, got randomly lucky, got it. But that gives you a bit of, oh man, okay. Okay, this person's got some mounts. That's kind of cool. And then you get in that spiral. So I think with World of Warcraft, it's quite important to kind of not pick your niche, because the beauty is that you can do everything, you can go everywhere, but also to develop the understanding that you can't have everything. The game is too big. The game is too vast. You can't obtain everything. And that is what it is. Retail. We'll quickly do a bit more retail. I've already been talking for 15 minutes, and then we'll go on to classic and then hardcore. So retail, awesome. I love the graphics. I love the style of retail. Feels fantastic. Even as a new player, even if it's, you know, not as good as the new stuff, the style is really good for it, and I've really enjoyed it. It hasn't been too... I think I find myself in this weird category where I can't really get behind completely mental anime graphics of things. But I don't mind a little bit of crazy. Like, I don't mind a bit of a crazy sword. I don't mind a bit of, you know, dramatization. But I don't need a sword that's the size of, you know, a literal house. And I don't need... You know what I mean? You know what I mean. And so the graphics, the weapons are kind of cool. The abilities are really cool. The spells are really cool. And visually, lots of things look incredible. Just the other day, I was watching some gameplay of someone playing Mistweaver, doing healing, and I thought, damn, I want to play that character because the heals look so cool. The game looks cool. And if you're looking from the outside in and you're only seeing high-end gameplay, give it a go, because the visuals of this game will blow you away. And if you also have only seen those grainy graphics and you're thinking, wait, World of Warcraft looks terrible, what are you talking about? I'm here to tell you World of Warcraft looks much better than it did in 2004. If you're concerned and you don't want to play Classic, go on to Classic. Music is phenomenal. And even me, who said I would never ever do M+ stuff, have ended up doing M+, more end game gameplay. I am not a good player. I'm not. I still don't know where my fingers are on the keyboard. But there is something about doing M+. There's something about improving with learning your class, learning your spells, learning your rotation, learning your survivability. That is actually really satisfying to do. So if you're looking and you're thinking, maybe I'd like to try that endgame stuff one day, you absolutely can get there. You'll have to go slow. You might be better than me, you'll probably learn quicker than me, and then you'll be absolutely fine. But take your time, learn your class, enjoy the questing, enjoy those things, and then move on to that endgame stuff. That way you're getting all of the game for what it's worth. The retail, if I was to give it a ranking, a simple out of 10 ranking after, you know, 4 months of playing it, I'd probably give retail an 8 out of 10. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think there's certain parts of it which I find kind of frustrating. So what do I find frustrating about it? I think I find things like there's so many updates, so many changes, so many new ways of doing things that it's quite hard to maintain your path, because there's always like a new thing to collect, a new thing to do, and it sounds weird because that should be really good in games, like new stuff, but actually sometimes you just want it to settle so that you can sit on what you're doing. But other than that, I've really enjoyed my retail experience, and it's, I think, probably been made better by the fact that I hadn't done anything else before. However, now we've got to talk about something interesting. Classic and hardcore classic. Now, my comments when I started making videos about World of Warcraft were littered with the battle between retail and classic. What is better, classic or retail? And I would say it's 50-50. Lots of people who are retail side would say it's just nostalgia, retail's better. And objectively, for new players, I would always suggest play retail first, because you're used to playing modern games, and retail is modern. And so it won't be as confusing or unsatisfying as playing classic. And we'll get onto unsatisfying, because that's a harsh word to use, because actually it's very satisfying. So start with retail. I wanted, though, because of these comments, and because everyone said play it, to give it a go. I wanted to give classic a go. I wanted to see how it felt. And so for the last month or so, I've been playing classic, not entirely, but a big portion of the time that I've been playing has been dedicated to playing classic. And in classic, it is... How do I describe classic? Classic looks older. It is not as polished. There's not as much going on. But something about it just works perfectly. Something about it. And it could just be for me. Now, despite my youthful looks, I am 2 years away from 30. Do the maths on that. And so I've been playing games for quite a long time now, whatever, like let's just call it like 20 years. So I'm kind of used to all different kinds of graphics, different ways of games looking. And so the graphics of Classic for me, as a slightly older person, I know I'm not that old, they don't bother me. And in fact, again, the stylization of World of Warcraft makes the graphics really not important. And it's strange, and you'll have to trust my judgment on that. But if you give Classic a go, and you see it actually in front of you opposed to on a YouTube video, it will feel much better than you think it does. Graphics are fine. In fact, visually, it's quite nice. The beauty of Classic World of Warcraft is the satisfaction, the development and growth that your character has over time. Every item you obtain in Classic makes a big difference. In retail, this isn't the same, because in retail you're showered with items all the time, relentlessly. And for someone who doesn't have as much time, that's great news. We can get good stuff quickly in retail. In Classic, this isn't the case. But in Classic, it looks a bit more like this. 2 hours, 3 hours of gameplay. Oh, wow, I picked up a pair of boots. These boots give me +1 armor. Amazing. That's a big win. It feels like a big win because those 2 hours were hard. Having to think about how I was attacking, where I was going, what route I was going to take, how many enemies can I pull, how do I have to heal myself, what's the rest of my team doing. Another 3 hours goes on. Oh, cool, I've got some new wrist guards. Amazing, they give me +2 agility. Excellent. I need my agility because the agility is going to improve this skill set that I've got. And so it has a really tangible difference with every item that you obtain. And it makes leveling through it, as grindy as it can feel sometimes, worth the grind. I don't know whether this is going to change for me as I level further and further and further, and I get better items, and actually I don't want as many things, but for right now, it hits the mark. The other difference you have in Classic compared to retail is obviously for the first 40 levels, and probably beyond that, you can only walk. On retail, basically immediately you can fly. Well, definitely now that you can fly. The pros and cons of flying for me have been, the pros are, if I want to just smash through things, I want to do things, I've got to repeat things, I just fly. I take the flight, I get there, I pick up the thing, I go. Boom, 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 boom. I go. With Classic, walking opens tons of doors. And socially, I think it's the most important thing that the game has. When you are walking around in Classic World of Warcraft, you will bump into loads of players. And lots of players in Classic are also doing the same thing. They are walking around slowly, and I'm talking slowly because it can take 10, 15, 20 minutes to get from A to B. You can stop and you can talk to people. People will be doing different quests along the way. People will be having conversations on the way. You'll bump into people. What basically I'm trying to say is, in Classic, the world feels more alive than retail. And in retail, there tends to be loads more people around. And in retail, there tends to be a lot more going on all the time. But for some reason, this old version of the game, Classic, feels alive in the world. Even, and it sounds weird because I'm not this way inclined. I'm a bit, I'm not ADHD at all, but like, I used to be much more like bounce around. I want things happening. Even when I'm walking slowly from A to B in Classic, there is something about it. There's something about the music. There's something about the atmosphere that weirdly makes those walks feel like rest periods and enjoyment periods rather than long slogs. You've just had a really hard battle, you've just done some hard leveling, and then you've got a 10-minute walk. Now, sometimes this walk can be horrible because you've got to dodge things. Other times this walk can be amazing because you go, whew, finally I can relax. And I think the big difference, and I think other people will agree with me, between retail and Classic is in retail you feel like a demigod. You feel like an absolute hero, a titan. You are overpowered. You are 100 things come at you. You do a tornado spin and you take them down and you walk off with explosions going off behind you. On Classic, anything can take you down. Anything. Water frog people, boars, wolves, single humans. And then you've got elites. The elites are hard to take down. And I'm sure there's some really good players out there who are looking at me going like, Classic is easy. But as a new player, it's challenging. And it's challenging to, keep pushing through if you keep failing at certain things. There's certain things that I've done in both versions of the game, to be fair, where I failed over and over and over again. And when you finally get it, chef's kiss, it feels fantastic. And Classic feels great for that. The only downside about Classic is it's time consuming as hell. Super time consuming. I definitely could have leveled like 2 characters to 80 easily in retail in the same amount of time that I've got like 2 characters to level 15 in Classic. That's the difference. It's a huge difference. You can level quickly, but it's kind of like an hour a level. An hour a level. And obviously that gets a bit longer the further you go on. I want to talk quickly, because I've been going for 25 minutes, we'll try and round out half an hour, quickly about Hardcore Classic. And Hardcore Classic is absolutely the thing that I'm playing at the moment. Hardcore Classic does all the things I just said about Classic, and then it adds drama and suspense and enjoyment of doing nothing. Classic Hardcore is as exactly as it sounds, and you'll all know this if you've got to this point of the video. If you die, you die, that's it. Gone, okay? Now, if you've taken an hour to level your character every level to level 15, like me, that's 15 hours. It's a long time. It's a lot of time. It's like more than half a day. And when I think about it like that, it makes me feel a bit unwell. You want to keep that character alive. That character has seen the world. We walked from A to B. We've dodged crocodiles. We've dodged, elite patrols. We've dodged other players. We've had conversations with players on the go. Like with this hardcore character, I have just spoken to random people from all over the world. I've quested with people from all over the world. People playing mages, people playing shamans, other warriors. And we explore the world and we take on enemies and bosses together, and we communicate whilst we're doing it. And I think Hardcore Classic for me has solved the big problem that I've had with gaming as I've got older, and that is a social aspect of it. As we get older, people go off and do different things. We've got friends getting married, people having children. So that social aspect of playing games that we used to have kind of disappears to a certain extent. And maybe you go like, oh, you're the weirdo who's still playing games. You're too old for this. However, the reality is Classic offers a really amazing way of getting social again, of finding communities and finding groups. And I spoke about this the other day on my stream, is that I think actually Classic WoW does this amazing thing that I haven't seen a game do in years. Or for me personally, I'm sure there's games out there that have. And it feels like microtherapy for people. You get on Classic, Hardcore, you walk, and as you're walking, you see someone fishing in a pond over to the left, and you think, who is this Wellersus? Wellersus is he's just here, level 23 warrior, fishing in this pond. And you walk up to him, having just fought a big battle that you only just survived, and you got the adrenaline release from surviving that because I kept my character alive, who I've been leveling for hours, for days. Amazing. I need to relax now. Let me walk somewhere slowly so that I can take that downtime to survive another day. And I bump into this guy who's fishing. Say hello. He turns around and he says hello. I don't know where he is. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know who he is. And we have a conversation, a friendly conversation. Hi, how are you? How are things going? How are you enjoying the world? Isn't this zone amazing? This zone's amazing. It's very peaceful here. Can you tell me a bit about how to be better at being a warrior? Because I'm new to Classic. Have you got any ideas about what I could do? Yeah, of course. This is what I know. This is how I got to level 23. This is my experience. And I've had a unique conversation with a person from who knows where. And for me, I'm sure there's toxic sides of Classic Hardcore. I'm sure there are, of course, like there isn't any corners. But for me, every experience and every interaction that I've had with someone in Hardcore Classic has been amazing and friendly and positive. And there's people working together, and there's people with all different backgrounds playing a game together, which is awesome for me. And I think that is the beauty of Hardcore Classic. I could go on forever and ever, and we could talk about the finer details of video games and whatever you want to do, graphics, gameplay loops, audio, all of that stuff. We could do that, but I just wanted to share kind of my raw feelings about my experience with World of Warcraft so far after playing for 6 months. And I know this has been a long video, and I appreciate anyone who stayed until the end. And if you have stayed to the end, just leave an emoji down below so I know that you have. Please share your thoughts about being a new player, an old player in World of Warcraft. An absolute pleasure as always, everybody. Thanks for sitting and listening to me ramble on for half an hour about a game that I've come to really, really enjoy. Have a fantastic day, everyone, and we'll be back with another one very soon.